So substance use disorder is something that starts to occur at the molecular level. So when you use any kind of drug, your brain starts to compensate for its presence in the brain. And if you're exposed to a drug at higher and higher doses over longer and longer periods of time, your brain does start to change. And one of the things that people have found is that the pathways that perhaps determine consequences, things that you may be worried about in the future, if you do a certain behavior now, those parts of the brain stop talking to each other. So you may not have the capacity to make rational decisions after a while. And we know that all of these different parts of the brain start to communicate in a very different way than somebody that has never taken drugs. So for example, your learning and memory centers seem to have overlearned drug-taking behaviors. And some people have even postulated that drug abuse is almost like a learning disorder, a very extreme example of it. But you've sort of overlearned these drug-taking behaviors, and these parts of your brain become very active whenever you see a cue. So for example, a sound or a smell or a picture that you associate with drug use will trigger these memory centers, and it'll start the whole craving process. So somebody's brain after using drugs, especially for a long period of time, is fundamentally different than somebody who's never taken the drug in the first place. Physical dependence and tolerance are two aspects of drug use that don't necessarily mean that you are addicted to a drug. So you can use a clinically useful drug and develop tolerance to it. So for example, if you're using a drug to treat seizures, for example, you may have to use more and more over time because you do become tolerant. So becoming tolerant to a drug doesn't necessarily mean that you're addicted, but to be addicted, typically, before that happens, you have developed tolerance and some dependence on the drug as well. Dependence in the realm of drug abuse is this idea that either psychologically you need the drug or you start to become very anxious. You just can't picture yourself getting through the day without it. Physical dependence is more the idea that when you stop using the drug, you start to get these physical symptoms that indicate that now your body can't function without the drug.